This is Mike Watt. So yeah, we're sitting down and we're going to talk a little bit, and then we'll stand up and we'll play. So I mean, we can stand up and talk if that's more comfortable for you, but I doubt it. Anyway, Mike Watt, welcome to London.
Hey,
good to see you. Yes, I think last time you were here, you came here with your trio from Italia. Who are
actually, not mine, I'm a member.
Well, yeah, it's not your trio, but the trio. And you played somewhere else in town, but you're playing here tonight, or tomorrow. The trio is playing here tomorrow, which is cool. We were just listening to Cosmic Slop.
Yeah.
What were you saying about that song? You knew something about that song?
Yeah, well, the guy's mom's a prostitute, right?
Well, is that the story?
I don't know.
Where'd you hear that?
I think music's for pretended. John Fogerty, very Northwest Bayou.
But John
about 1,500 miles.
John Fogerty, it was like a Pacific Northwest USA kind of thing. So,
I don't know.
But he was always referencing music from like the Southeast, like Tennessee and Louisiana. That was his trip. What do you?
Yeah, but in Chicago, when he's doing the Boynan, I think for sure he's doing Howlin' Wolf. And not so much Northwest, because El Sereno? That's by Berkeley, so maybe in the middle of the. But yeah, it's not where you're from; it's where you're at. I think that's what he's trying to prove.
Where are you from?
Virginia.
You've lived in California most of your life, but that's not
50 years.
That's not where you were born, though.
No, Virginia. I lived there twice.
50 years. That means you were
10.
You were 10.
No, I was 9 when I came, but I'm 10 now.
And you're,
I was fucking with you.
But you're 60 next month.
December 20.
December 20th. You're 60.
I beat you.
Yeah, you did by a few months. Yes. Do you have any big plans?
Yeah, I'm gonna do a gig.
Okay, that's surprising. So Mike, Mike's the one who actually any of us who've grown up with Mike, we kind of grew up together for the last 30 years, more or less. He's the one who came up with probably the most significant dictum that we all have is like, when you're not playing, you're paying. And that's what we tell everybody when on days off. Like, oh, don't you feel good that you have a day off? And say, well, when you're not playing, you're paying.
Yeah. But probably the vaudeville people explored that before I got to.
Yeah. I didn't say you were the first, but. How did you discover? We were talking about John Fogerty.
Yeah.
How did you discover? Well, his music, obviously the radio, I guess, but what?
A little bit, but it was really hammered into me.
And why did that connect with
by
you?
By experience of this guy jumped out of a tree on me.
D. Boone.
Right, and the only rock band he had ever heard was Creed's. He had all 6 of those records. The 7th one's not a real Creed's record, but he had the 6. And yeah, so I had to learn every song.
So he turned you on to Creedence?
Yeah. Yeah, but it was on the radio, you're right. They made those 6 records between 68 and 70. In 3 years, they made 6 albums.
Yeah. What was in your record collection before you met D. Boone?
Yeah.
What was in your record?
Yeah.
What was?
Yeah,
what?
Yeah.
What? No, yeah. I mean, yes?
No, I had more than one rock and roll record.
You had some records?
I had other rock bands. He only knew one.
Oh,
his pop was way into Buck Owens and,
Yeah.
I had, first record I bought, 45, was American Woman by Guess Who, a Canadian band. Then this thing came on was 8 tracks.
Right.
And there was, if you sent in a dime to the Columbia Club,
Yeah.
right, they would send you 10 and then one a month. You'd have to send it back or pay for it.
Yeah.
So I had, there was an anthology of Cream. I was into anthology of Who. They would put these things.
Like best ofs.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right. Of course, there was Doors and there was Jimmy, and I was aware of a lot of stuff. Alice Cooper.
Were you thinking you were going to be playing, listening to this stuff? Like,
No,
this
no.
is what I want to do?
No, what happened was his mother said we were going to be in a band. So we would, because I had to move from the Navy housing to projects. 'Cause my pop got stationed, but John Fogerty now on that Alameda. She said, fuck this moving shit, we're staying in Pedro. So we moved to a project that was just built called Park Western Estates. And was an older one called Park Western. And it was 1970, right? So there's not a lot of guns. There's fighting and stuff. So she wanted us in the house after school. And that was the idea of the band. She played guitar, so her son played guitar. And she said that band had a bass. Now, I didn't know really what a bass was. In the pictures, it looked like a guitar. It just had 4 strings. So, okay. And problem was those Creedence records.
You couldn't really hear the bass.
That's right. And especially with
Yeah.
coated with grape juice. And we used we didn't use the record covers to protect the records in this hardwood floor. And the record players, very econo, you have to put like 8 quarters to keep it from skipping. So I couldn't hear, but on the cover, I noticed the singer's shirts.
You noticed what?
The singer's shirts.
Oh, the shirts. The
Shirt, yeah. Well, you had different one on different records, but they were all flannels.
We're going to talk fashion now.
Yeah. That's how I got into him. I thought if I wore the singer's shirts, he would still like me, even though I couldn't figure out what the fuck was going on with the bass.
I think a lot of musicians start that way.
Well, Mark Bolan had, the first gig we went to was T-Rex, and he had a boa.
Uh-huh.
So I thought that was his rock and roll shirt.
Oh, I see.
I didn't know lumberjacks and farmers. I was Navy housing, so.
When did you see T-Rex?
It was the Slider.
The Slider tour.
When you open it, it's all orange. Yeah.
But you must have
Long
been,
Beach Auditorium.
But you must have been like 16 years old or something.
No. 16 was California Jam.
The California Jam.
$6.50.
The California Jam was a huge, important festival in the early 70s.
I never went to another one after that. I played it with the Stooges. Yeah, this was at the Long Beach Auditorium. It's torn down. In the back room, they used to film the Don Kirshner rock concert.
Yes.
Yeah.
Did they have that here? There's this thing called Don Kirshner's rock concert.
He invented the
It
monkeys.
was kind of like, I don't know what it was like. Well, it's kind of Top of the Pops, or kind of like super, what was it called? Supersonic. Yeah, Supersonic. I'm surprised I
That's where we're playing in Paris next. Monday.
Oh.
Sonic, I think.
Well, you're kind of in Mark Bolan's neighborhood.
Yeah, you were telling me, that's bitch. Well, the first time I came to England with the Minutemen and Black Flag, it was February of '83 and snowing and cold, but I found out where the tree was on the south part of the river here. And a bunch of stuff was tacked on it.
Cool. So you didn't go to like Trafalgar Square, you went to the tree where
I
Bolan
went to the tree. Yeah, it was really important. And in fact, in those days there was no merchandise at the gigs, but there'd be bootleg guys a couple of blocks away. And they took what, I think it's Ride a White Swan, and they cut Mickey Finn out. And it was just smart. It was $2, and it's the first rock guy I had on the bulkhead of my, where I comped. So it's kind of my, more than John Fogerty is a rock,
Yeah.
what do you call it?
Idol.
Inspiration.
So you're a huge T-Rex fan.
Yeah. Which was trippy because he wasn't that big in the U.S.
I can't imagine. Yeah, he wasn't, but I can't imagine, especially in San Pedro, which is a very working class, south of L.A. kind of harbor town.
Biggest one now.
That T-Rex was not really, really taken to by most of the people your age.
No,
But
girls who went to Hollywood, liked
Bowie
and Roxy and
Roxy,
yeah.
Did you see those guys?
No, I didn't. Get to
You
see
told me what I think is fascinating is that when you were a teenager, you had access to seeing so much of what was going on in the early 70s rock and roll world by having access to these television tapings that were going on, where there'd be like...
I saw Mark Bolan on Star, it wouldn't come up. He was angry.
He comes up on the Star.
Yeah, but it wouldn't come up.
I saw that.
You know, they had guys with signs that said applause and shit like this. They take these things.
Yeah.
It's kind of corny.
No, it blows my mind because we're the same age, but I remember living in like a rural small town in Connecticut and watching that on television. And to think that you could actually be there, which is...
Well, they needed a pad to somebody in the audience.
Well, I know they needed somebody in the audience, but I didn't realize you were the
And
audience.
Long Beach is... How was that?
And D. Boone also used to go with you.
Yeah, of course.
Your parents used to take you and drop you off there. And take you
His
up.
His pop sat with us at the gig. His pop was from Nebraska and didn't know anything about it. And there was Hare Krishnas sitting in front of us with sparklers. It was a trip. It was a trip. The thing we didn't know until the movement was clubs. We had no idea about that.
That there was bands that played in clubs.
Yeah, the whole idea, that whole thing.
Yeah.
Where people could sit this close.
Yeah. Well, how did you discover that?
The movement.
The what? The movement.
Yeah, there was... me and D. Boone was jamming with a friend of ours named Mark Weisswasser. And like Tie Your Mother Down and Dust in Your Wind and whatever, copying, because she copied songs off records. You know, the best guy in town was the guy who could play Black Dog the best. No one used music for expression. It was all about
having the skills to play the Black Dog.
keggers. There was no club, there was no local thing you could play. I found out with 125 Months with the Stooges that there was all kinds of this in the 60s. But I'm 13 in 1970, and the arena rock, you know,
It kind of takes over.
the Nuremberg Rally paradigm. And so we're copying songs, and this drummer turns out to be Jeff Avisovich, but you probably know him as Nicky Beat. He's the drummer of the Weirdos. We come out for a breather, we're sweaty, and he's wearing a Kotex around his neck, and his hair is all out. And he says, you know, there's a scene up in Hollywood where people write their own songs. And we went up and saw the bags. That's how we...
Oh. And Nicky B was a stampede.
Weirdo. Yeah, he's actually...
He was the only kid walking around with a Kotex wrapped around his neck.
Yeah, he's probably visiting home, right? He's probably living up there at that time.
Yeah.
I never got to talk to him about this.
He
turned us on.
He's not alive anymore.
No, he's alive.
He's alive. Sorry.
He's still sorry.
This is not going to be on YouTube. Thankfully.
He's still around. And it was very profound because it changes our whole... It's a sea change for me and D-Boone, big time. Mark went on to deal cards in Las Vegas. Really nice guy, though.
Nicky B wasn't he in the Cramps for a second?
I think so. That's right. Kay played with him in the Monsters, the band with Stan Lee and Darby. Little short-lived thing.
So, to go back to something you were saying earlier about playing bass and not really realizing that it was any different than a guitar, but it was, and it kind of makes me think about like in that time. Again, people our age in like late 70s, early 80s, like getting involved with playing in bands, and choosing the bass and playing the bass from a point that's like kind of ground zero, and you kind of approach.
I didn't choose it.
Well, you didn't choose it. Yeah, it's kind of in your. It's kind of in your hands.
Yeah.
Sort of, the thing is,
I'm very grateful to her. She passed away when we were 18, and she was a huge pillar. And it was a huge blow. First time I learned how to lose somebody. It was very, very difficult. But I'm very grateful for her putting on the bass.
Yeah. Well, my point is that it seems that a lot of bass players in that situation play bass as if they're playing a guitar.
Oh yeah.
So,
well, in those days, what I found, a lot of guys were guitar players, and that's how you could get a gig because no one wanted to rock the bass.
Yeah. But subsequently, a lot of the recordings that you hear, the bass player is playing in a way that isn't really is traditional to what a bass is. Say like a Zeppelin bass or whatever the big arena rock bands. It's something else.
Yeah, well, you see those pictures, and you see all those amplifiers on stage. Yeah. That's because that's how they. And these things are built for sports and stuff, and you couldn't hear.
Right.
Ooh, ooh. I have to say though, the England records,
Yeah.
they weren't afraid to mix the bass loud. With over on our side, R&B was like that, and in fact, the guitar made room for him, all trebly and clipped. But over there, man, even the Kinks and Animals had loud bass, let alone Cream and Who. Tony Visconti on that Bowie record. You know,
That's interesting. Yeah.
with the
Why do you think that is?
Man, I don't know, but it helped me a lot. Geezer Butler, because I could learn. I could learn from this. I couldn't. Now I can hear the Creedence lines. Stu Cook did pretty good.
What about Gene Simmons?
I learned a lot from him, believe it or not. Because
Didn't he do like a bass tutorial in Hollywood?
I never went to those, and I remember when we only saw him.
You told me about it once, many years ago, and you're like, "What is that? What
No,
goes on? What
Paul
goes-"
Stanley had a rhythm guitar clinic.
Oh.
Rhythm guitar solo clinic. Yeah, right, there's a little rhythm guitar solo. Yeah, that was a trip. Also, the time he played a solo gig in Bogart, there was a club in Long Beach. It was our closest, right, because all the gigs are in Hollywood, and then we could play in Long Beach, which was like, yeah, a little drive. And he had a solo gig there, and he ran from the limo all the way into the club, and he got on the stage, and his mouth was full of picks, and he spit them all over the audience. But we only saw them play once when they had an album. We saw them, they opened up for anybody, like James Gang or Camel.
Kissed it.
Yeah. I mean, really corny shit. Wishbone Ash, Savoy Brown, whatever. Nitty Gritty Dirt Man. And kind of a simple music in a way. New York Dolls. But I don't know. When the album came out, it was so slow compared to those gigs.
Yeah.
But there was a station called KNEC that would broadcast gigs live. And I had cassettes, and I could hear the bass. And maybe it was an English influence. You know, you listen to those records, how big the bass is on those things, man. And it helped me a lot.
Yeah.
I didn't have to, just count on the shirt. There was some, I gotta say, Dennis Dunaway, who lives in Connecticut.
Alice Cooper.
Yeah, I could hear him, and a little bit of Joe Bouchard and the Blue Oyster Cult.
Yeah. Did you, so when you go to these gigs, you and D. Boone, and get kind of radicalized, do you sort of draw a line in the sand and get rid of all your Grand Funk records and just like...
We didn't like them. But we, some things
That's
were...
good, because Mark Farner is a right-wing ding-dong these days.
Okay.
He's probably not the only one.
I remember seeing Jay Giles' band blow them off, but they were huge. Everybody had that Red record.
Yeah.
The second one, where they get rid of Railroad.
Bloodshot.
I think it's just called Grand Funk.
The Red Grand Funk record.
Everybody, they put it out in the living room. I got to tell you about 70s people. I don't know on your side of the land, but we were very narcissist, all about us. You wouldn't listen to anybody 4 or 5 years before. It was really uptight, self-gaze generation.
You mean like real, like blatant localism?
Like you would put the same record as like some kind of like validation, at the house. You rode the Mota on the Red Grand Funk record.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
And I was like, but Pedro a little better. Pedro was very heavy with Jimi.
Jimi Hendrix.
Yeah, and also, a lot were mixed town, and the Latin guys. It wasn't just. It was a strip. Jimi was really heavy, and so was Black Sabbath.
Yeah.
Those guys were. So it wasn't all Led Zeppelin. They were big and stuff, but Jimi and Black Sabbath was really big. And then later on, Carlos Santana and Jeff Beck. And I know by that time we were caught up in the movement, right? This is '77.
Yeah, that's what I'm asking. Did you throw away all your Jeff Beck records?
Well, as far as those people up in Hollywood, the 200 punk rockers, right? It was a very small scene. Yeah. We're very balkanized Southern California, maybe 150 towns.
Right.
Doesn't look like it looks like one when you fly. Yeah. But we don't know the Val, the West Side Inland Empire. They thought anything south of Melrose was the beach.
Yeah.
It's crazy. No sea. So you could have another life.
Yeah.
They didn't know about. You've seen Sir Drone. Raymond puts it all out there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's
You could reinvent a whole thing. They didn't have to know, right? When the guy's afraid to show his ID, right? Because he's got the picture. His hair down here. Yeah. So you didn't have to do that. You could even have a new name and get these clothes and put them together from the thrift store and ride on them. Richard Hell, right?
Yeah.
That's a big influence on us. And then the records from over here that we never even saw the bands, but they were just sounds. So that's what split us from the old days.
Yeah.
So what we thought about this older music was more, this just was something that we did for Prac. That got our, and in fact we had to kind of unlearn it. That's where we felt tainted. And why we love bands like the Urinals, where these guys just put together a band. Yeah, couldn't believe that. Why weren't we thinking that back then? You know, why were we copying?
What bands from England were you into?
Oh man, those all that wild stuff. Mark Riley played some last night. Alternative television, The Fall, pop group Wire. Of course, the ones everybody knew, like Sex Pistols, and maybe the first couple Clash singles and first Jam album, something. But a lot of those bands turned into regular rock and roll. We'd already done that. We didn't want to go down that route. Right. But the ones that stayed weird, like that alternative television guy and the Lemon Kittens and, you know, they might be Russians. I mean, bizarre stuff, right? I mean, it was just, let's put out a record. Yeah. That whole culture was really, punk was not a style of music. It was more of a, we like this. We thought the style should be left up to the bands. And, that's the weird thing about us, because that scene we learned in Hollywood, which was like also Screamers and Nervous Gender, and they all quit. And then the hardcore, the young people from want to play guitar fast, which is, you know, was there from the Ramones. That kind of becomes the thing, and we lost some of that experiment. You know, you wrote a little Alliance records.
Yeah.
You wrote us back in those days.
Well, I sent a cassette or a copy of our Confusion is Sex record to you, or I sent it to New Alliance, knowing that the Minutemen were, that was their label.
That we were inspired by SST.
Well, I thought SST was too big. Like SST was like, I thought that was sort of like sending it to Warner Brothers, but there was this other label, and I was more interested in your label anyway, because the records I heard coming off of New Alliance sound more closer to what we were up to, whereas SST was more thuggish. I mean, it was big rock.
But it was Meat Puppets and it
yeah. I don't know, but it seemed like more advanced, and I didn't feel like we were. I don't know. I just felt like maybe start with this.
It was mighty,
see what happens.
It was Mighty Feeble, right?
Yeah, I like those records that you guys did. Those compilation records on New Alliance, because it was improvised music, and there was just things that were way more just curious.
But there was always a part of that in the '70s. Smegma, the Society, Free Music Society. There was this thing.
Yeah,
I like that. You talked to these dudes at the gig; they were deep into music. Yeah. You know. Raymond plays me John Coltrane. I thought he was a punk rock. I knew he was older. I didn't know he was dead. You know, essentially,
what?
I didn't know he's dead.
Who?
John Coltrane.
Oh.
I didn't know about that stuff. Just like I didn't know about farmers and lumberjacks. You know, narrow, a Navy.
Yeah.
Sailor, son of a sailor. So I was learning. I still am. Still a student. But
do you remember the first?
I do miss the surprise, and I guess, you know, New Alliance Records was supposed to be kind of
surprises.
Yeah, well, inspired by this movement that actually we find out about from Raymond. You know, things like Dada, and we find out about, you know, Walt Whitman and Woody Guthrie, and it actually was. Big link of chain.
Well, the fact that people all of a sudden were making records like that, because that wasn't really something that you normally saw, like in the culture of records. You know, unless you were sort of older and like kind of you knew about weird stuff in the '60s that were obscure. But
well, Don Bowles, Byron Coley, you talking
cats. But there was very few people who were clued in to that as some kind of some kind of aesthetic that was happening really underground or whatever.
Definitely in Pedro. But there was a listener-supported radio station still there called KPFK. And there was a show on Friday. And it was named after a John Cage piece. It was called Imaginary Landscape. And the DJ was Carl Stone.
Yeah.
And he would play trippy shit.
Right.
I mean, like some dude squeaking on a balloon. And these days it was when we ate L, and just... I didn't go anywhere. Pod lay on the deck and just let this shit trip me out.
You were like
10 hours. Yeah. This music was... I thought psychedelic music should be really psychedelic, and you're gonna, go balls out. So, in a way, that radio show was like...
Yeah.
It was... I think he's in Tokyo now making wild music.
Stone,
yeah. You probably know him.
No.
Okay. He's into Spotney, Martin Spotney, and Karl-Heinz Stockhausen. So I heard some of this stuff, and it was just a trippy thing. And I thought it was residue of hippies. I didn't really know there was a thing before that, like the concrete and all the things from the turn of the century. I thought it was remnants of a hippie, because you could hear.
You thought it was hippies?
There was another,
badass.
Carl was more like talking about it like maybe Byron or Don Bowles. But then the show after Tesseract, they kind of played something like that. But you could hear the sunflower seeds hitting the floor and shit. It was definitely hip kind of thing. Yeah, so that's Friday nights if I didn't have work. And the other thing we did, because we ate a lot of L. And you would buy these records. No one would write about this stuff. Cream even didn't. Yeah. So we would buy records at Zed in Long Beach, Zed of London. This guy Mike and his mom ran this record store, and we'd buy them by the name or how the record cover looked, but we wouldn't listen to them until time to eat this shit. And did you bet the first Cabaret Voltaire album? Whoa, or the Prayer on Fire. Birthday parties, and they just blow our fucking minds out because we had no idea what was coming up. Of course, the second time you kind of knew. But the first time, so last time I ate ale was Einstein's Neubauten in the desert.
Oh, you went to that gig?
Because you did the second one, right?
Yeah.
We did the first one, they did the third one.
Yeah.
I think Stuart Sweezy now is putting this out.
Yeah.
Called Desolation Center.
Yeah,
and I ate there, and some motherfucker had a gun and was shooting in the crowd and said, "No more ale." I don't know what it had to do with anything, but I just never ate it again.
Do you remember the first time you came to England? I seem to remember.
Yeah, with Black Flag.
Oh no, that was the first time you came here.
Yeah, Minutemen, Black Flag, '83. First, all three of us, me, Georgie, and D. Boone, had been overseas.
Where'd you play in London? Do you remember?
2 gigs. One was called 100 Club, and one was called Brixton Ace.
Yeah.
And I think it was on the south of the river. The other one.
Well, no. Well, the Brixton Ace was where?
Probably in Brixton. And they called it the Hood. What tricked me out was they called it the Hood. Also, Brothers with Accents was a trick.
I've only lived here 7 years.
Okay. But
So
that was our first time.
Who'd you? So was it just the package of you, Black Flag, and Minutemen, and was
sometimes Bugger would play with Billy.
Nigga would play. But what do you remember about the gigs here in London?
The owner was interesting. Yeah, he said all the press was communist, and one of the bouncer guys showed me a card that said National Front, and if he lived where I lived, he'd have a gun and.
Where was this? At the 100 Club?
Yeah. It was not that much. My grandfather's a Klansman. I'm not that impressed by shit like that.
Really?
I didn't pick it.
No, I'm not saying you did.
Fuck yeah.
Yeah.
I finally went to the town. I would always avoid the town. It's in Arkansas called Earl. About 25 miles west of Memphis.
And that's where your family...
No, my father's father. My mother's people are from Italy.
From Italy?
Where they invented fascism. It's not where you're from, it's where you're at.
Well, on that note, I don't know how. I mean, we could talk forever, but it's,
In Pedro, we call it windbagging.
if anybody has any questions, otherwise, Mike and I will just stand up and we're gonna freely improvise.
I gotta tell you, can I say one thing?
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Yes.
I got into music because D Boon, right?
Yeah.
And I lose him in a wreck. And I thought no one wanted to see me without do bass without him. And I took Kay she had an internship after graduating, UCLA in New Haven. And on the way back, I stopped, and you're in Martin BC's.
Oh yeah, we were recording Bad Moon Rising.
No, Evil.
Oh, Evil, yeah.
And you gave me the bass, and Lee wrote. Actually, only Steve played with me.
Yeah.
But you said you're gonna play.
Yeah.
And that's the first time I played bass after he was killed. And that was very important. And then you had me play the Kim Valley record, the bubblegum. And then we decided to do the Ciccone you did. You know, I said, okay, I'll get back into music, and that really helped me.
Well, good. I'm glad.
That was a second win. I'm forever in your debt.
I'm pretty sure you would have gotten back in there.
Okay. But the reality was,
I'm glad.
Forced the issue.
Cool. Well,
thank you, Thurston.
yeah, come on up and ask. And that's what you want to ask? Yeah. Oh, I don't have it. I certainly do. I didn't see it so dark. You don't have to ask.